Now in London, where a massive blaze has engulfed a 27-storey block of flats in West London in the middle of the night. What we can tell you tonight is the Grenfell Tower apartment block caught alight just after 1 a.m. in the morning local time. There have been reports of trapped residents screaming for help and waving items of clothing. Nearby buildings are being evacuated and police have been pushing the cordons further out due to the dangers of falling debris and fears the tower might collapse. Witnesses have also described seeing lights thought to be mobile phones or torches from the top levels to try to get attention. Here's witness Jody Martin.
I've just been watching people in their windows flashing with their phones and then slowly watching those apartments get engulfed in flames and smoke. My opinion that there's going to be a lot of dead people in that building. Just that they couldn't have got out. The second top window, I saw a family of 3 in there, and then slowly I've watched the smoke get worse and worse. They're clambering to the windows. I can see them like trying to wave blankets to try and get oxygen into themselves, and then slowly they're one at a time. They've just not been at the window anymore.
And that's witness Jody Martin. Well, the Grenfell Tower is home to 120 flats and most of the residents are families. More than 200 firefighters and 20 ambulance crews are at the scene. We'll have extended coverage throughout the show tonight, and we're hoping to speak very shortly to UK journalist Rachael Veneables. But right now we'll go to... Oh no, I'm told we have got Rachael Veneables. She's at the scene, and I spoke to her a short time ago and asked her to tell me what she could see.
The only way I can describe it really is a towering inferno, this huge block, 27 stories high, which is completely lit up in flames. When I got here a couple of hours ago, the sky was still dark. You could see the bright orange lit up against it. It looks now as though the fire engines and the fire brigade have started to properly pump in some water, and the jet black smoke has turned to grey. And what I can see is almost twisted metal sort of beams the structure itself, which has sort of been reduced down to the skeleton of the building. And then as you look through the little gaps, the little broken teeth almost of the windows, you can see the fire. Just huge bursts of flames and bits of the building as well, sort of being propelled outwards by the force, the heat of it, and falling to the ground. You may hear, while I'm on the line to you now, sort of popping bangs. There's been sporadic noises coming from the building over the last couple of hours. The smell of the smoke catching you at the back of the throat, it's the most awful thing to see, you know, in what is a very residential part of West London. Houses crammed in together, lots of small little terraced areas, and like I say, completely cordoned off with hundreds of people just gathered around in their pyjamas. Some ran for safety from their beds, just staring up at it, open-mouthed.
Do you know if there are people still inside the building?
We don't know if there are people still inside the building, but everyone I've spoken to who was a witness, who ran outside when they heard the sirens, who heard the smoke, say that they saw people screaming and calling for help, waving their arms from the higher floors. It looks as though this started on the 4th or 5th floor, and it spread upwards to the 27th and down to around the 2nd. I don't know if there are people still inside. If there are, sadly, they will have lost their lives. I have overheard a police officer speaking, though, to people who live in the area and telling them that there have been fatalities. This obviously isn't confirmed officially, but it's what they're saying on the ground. Certainly, from speaking to the people who saw the numbers trapped, the numbers sort of running for their lives, it does seem as though people have died here.
Is there any word yet on what's caused it?
No word at the moment. I spoke to one woman who said that there'd been some sort of bang, some sort of explosion, but that could have been anything, you know, sort of from an accident to something catching fire that was flammable. Most of the people I've spoken to say this building was recently cladded, so it was recently almost refitted on the outside. I think it's sort of a 60s block, but in the last year, sort of fresh insulation put around the outside, and it looks as though that part of the outside of the building caught fire around the 4th or 5th floor, and then from there the flames just shot up and it just went right to the top of the building, right the way through the inside.
And Rachael, there were reports that 1/4 of the building was actually not on fire, but what do you know about that?
At the moment, from what I can see, it's completely alight. We heard from the fire brigade that it was from the 2nd to the 27th floor. I haven't been able to walk all the way around it, but from what I can see, a just the sheer enormity of the blaze taking over all aspects of the half that I can see. I don't physically understand how really any part of this building can escape. As I say, there were reports that it started from sort of the 2nd to the 27th floor. It might be that parts of the bottom are still intact. It might be that parts around the other side are as well. But as I say, I highly doubt it. From what I can see, it's just the sort of blackened shell of a building that's just full of flames on the inside, sending up plumes of smoke from the top.
Is it in danger of collapsing?
So at this stage, I know that homes around the bottom of the building have all been evacuated. I spoke to a woman earlier who's under the impression that her home probably hasn't survived either because it's so close to the building. At the minute, I've not heard any sense of that, but there's a huge cordoned off area. You can't get to within streets of it. So it may well be that that's something that the police and the fire teams are worried about, yes.
And in terms of fighting the fire itself, how is that going? I mean, is it anywhere near under control?
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on anything like that. I can't say for sure how long something like this could go on, because I know that fires can burn for hours or even days, you know, when it looks as though they're under control. I know that in the last hour, the smoke sort of changed from deep black to sort of a lighter grey, and I think that was the point at which teams really started to get a handle of shooting jets of water into the building. I believe that around the other side of the building, from where I can see, there is actually a crane with a fireman on that crane, and what he's been doing is shooting in jets of water. So it looks as though certainly the tempo of it has calmed down, but still absolutely huge flames right the way through this huge building, which apparently had 120 homes in it.
What do you know about the residents there?
About the residents, very little. I mean, it's not a particularly affluent area, so there will be, sort of many people, many families. It's in West London near Westfield Shopping Centre, so if anyone has been to London, they may well have come over here to do a spot of shopping. Just a normal area, normal, full of homes. There'll be Londoners, there'll be people from all over the world living there. Yes, it's absolutely tragic, to be honest.
So the people that are around you in their pyjamas, did they come from that building or from surrounding buildings?
A mixture. I spoke to one woman who'd come from that building. I spoke to another woman, as I mentioned, who'd come from a home just in front of it, which she believes is now alive as well. There are huge areas, obviously, as I mentioned, cordoned off. So there have been people who've been woken up and taken from their homes, and there are other people who just woke up at around midnight, 1 o'clock, 11:30 at night, saw what was going on, rushed outside in their pyjamas, in their dressing gowns, and haven't gone back in since. They've been helping each other, bringing out water, cups of tea, to the police officers standing guard, looking out for loved ones as well. I had a really harrowing moment earlier when I was speaking to one woman and someone ran past us, and they were on the 11th floor. She spoke to police officers and was let through the cordon. She obviously had a loved one, someone, a friend, a family member who lived in that building, and obviously at that point she was in a real panic as to how or where they were.
And there was one report I saw of someone dropping down sheets that were knotted together. Do you know about that?
Dropping down what, sorry?
Sheets, bed sheets knotted together out of the window.
Yeah, well, one person I spoke to said that they saw people waving cloths from the top floor, so people sort of waving their arms around looking for help, and then they were sort of shouting, "Help me," and waving material. So that may well have been a similar report. Sadly, I spoke to another woman who said she saw people actually dropping down from the building in some bid, obviously, to escape. Again, I don't know what became of them or what happened, but real panic here, definitely. This fire seems to have gone up in a matter of moments.
And they weren't able to get out through by the stairwell?
No, I mean, in the moments, obviously, of a fire like this, the lift is shut off. So there would have been people escaping via the stairwell, and as I mentioned earlier, it looks as though the fire spread along the outside, so it may well be that people were able to, certainly in the early moments of this, get down the stairs, but for whatever reason, when all of the people I spoke to came outside and were looking up at it, they could see people who were still clearly trapped. So whether by that point the fire had spread to corridors, whether it had blocked off the stairs, we just don't know at this stage.
And that's UK journalist Rachael Veneables talking to us from very near that burning tower. And in the last few minutes, Nick Paget-Brown, the leader of the Kensington and Chelsea Council, has told Sky News UK the number of fatalities is still unknown, but the tower block was home to several hundred residents.